welcome to this week's edition of Telegraph Herald More Than the Score. I'm sports editor Jim Leitner, and I'm joined this week by Brenden West, who covers boys basketball for us. We're here to talk about the all-area boys basketball team, and Brenden, it really starts at the top with Noah Carter, a University of Northern Iowa recruit who had a fantastic year, not only statistically but leadership-wise for the Dubuque Senior Rams this year. Tell us about what went into the process of selecting Noah Carter as your Player of the Year.
Well, if you go back about a year and a half ago, Jim, we're sitting there and we're wondering if Noah's even going to suit up again for Dubuque Senior. A lot of people remember that surgery that he had that really put into question his junior season of whether or not he'd be able to play basketball again for the Rams. Noah was able to overcome that, and we kind of lost what the kind of stellar play that I think he really showcased this season. It ended in him taking the Rams all the way to the state championship, their first time since 1977. He was an all-state, first-team all-state player. He was the NBC Divisional Player of the Year. He was an all-state tournament team member, led the Rams in scoring, finished third in scoring overall for his career for senior, second all-time in rebounds, and you mentioned the leadership. Coach Wendell Eimers told me that he wouldn't be surprised if Noah eventually became a captain for the Panthers in his collegiate playing career. So just an outstanding kid and a really impressive player. I saw so many different things from Noah this year that really stood out, that pretty much spoke to what this all-area Player of the Year is all about, and that's recognizing the best in the area. Certainly, Carter represents what is really good about basketball in the Tri-States.
You mentioned he had surgery. There might be some people out there who are not familiar with what he went through. It was actually kind of a scary deal. Tell me, what did he go through last year? I believe it was last November or December where he went through that. What did he go through, and what was his recovery like?
Well, It happened early in the season, and he was already off to a terrific start. I want to say he was averaging 25 points through the first two games that senior had played that year. Then he has the surgery, compartment syndrome. It was basically a bone bruise that really evolved into something pretty serious. He had to go into the hospital in the really early hours of the morning to have an emergency surgery done to alleviate that pain. That sidelined him for 12 games that season. Noah and Wendell both told me that he never really fully recovered from that season, but and it wound up essentially costing the Rams a potential return trip to the state tournament. So this year, transitioning into his senior year, the goal to get back to Wells Fargo Arena and play at state tournament was a top of mind for Noah, and the Rams, they had to overcome other injuries. They had to overcome the toughest road to get to the state tournament, taking down a Mr. Iowa basketball Mr. Basketball player and DJ Carton, who's going to be playing at Ohio State. They had to take down another Division I recruit in Patrick McCaffrey to advance to the semifinals. They had to take down the top team in the state to advance to the finals, and then ultimately they only lost by 3 points to the defending state champions in Cedar Falls. So it was a really tough road, lots of adversity, but in every single facet, in every single game, Noah Carter's there showing up, leading the Rams through his play and just through his mentality. And it was really just a privilege for me to watch on the sidelines. A very talented basketball player putting his team on his back in multiple ways, and no hesitation. He is our Player of the Year and very well deserving.
You give me a perfect segue, really, to go into our Coach of the Year discussion. Wendell Eimers of Dubuque Senior. Noah Carter had a great year, but he didn't do it all by himself. Obviously, he had some good help along the way with Dubuque Senior, and it seemed like Wendell Eimers was a big architect to this program and getting it to where it is right now. What can you tell me about Wendell being selected your Coach of the Year?
Well, there are a lot of terrific coaches in the Tri-States, and everybody brings their own different approach to cultivating really good teams, and there's a lot of really good basketball teams in this area. What really stuck out to me about what Coach Eimers was able to do was Senior's story really kind of started 3 years ago when all of his seniors were freshmen. And just the concept of him putting a lot of faith in these young players and then seeing it all finally come to fruition this season with him taking this team further than it's been in 4 decades. It's really pretty remarkable, really pretty impressive. And at every step of the way, you see Coach Eimers finding ways to motivate these kids that he's come to know really well, whether it's by storming into a practice and telling them that, you know, nobody outside of this gym thinks we're good enough, and just lighting that fire, or just giving them the space to be able to lead that huddle, calling the right plays, trusting multiple people. Like Daquan Lewis, for example, one of the big highlights of Dubuque Senior's big run when he stole that ball to give Senior the lead for good against Iowa City West. That was Wendell Eimer's call to say, hey, we need to have this guy who's a reserve for us on the floor because he's our best defensive player and the situation calls for it. He knows this team very well, and it's not really that surprising, one, from the talent, but two, just from the measured coaching ability that Eimers brought to this team, that Senior was able to go very far in the state tournament.
Okay, we're talking about our Coach of the Year and our Player of the Year, but we have 5 other members who made the first team. What can you tell me about the 5 players who comprise the rest of your first team all-area team?
Well, we'll just start right back here in the city with Michael Duax from Dubuque Hempstead. A little bit of a surprise there. This was his first varsity season, and there wasn't really a whole lot to go on with him, just based on previous seasons and everything, but he wound up leading the Mustangs in a number of different statistics and earned a unanimous first team all-MVC nod, which is really impressive for somebody who's an underclassman, and it definitely speaks for a bright future for him. We'll go down to Maquoketa then. AJ Becker led Class 3A in three-point shooting this season and is Maquoketa's all-time three-point leader. Just every time that kid stepped into half court, it seemed like he was in range. He's also a first-team All-State member, first-team All-WAMAC. Just a number of different accolades for him, and Maquoketa really had an impressive turnaround season. They improved by 11 wins to finish 20-3 overall, and it's just really hard to imagine that happening without the play of Becker. Up in Wisconsin, we had Isaac Lindsay, a Division I recruit from Mineral Point. He's won his 3rd straight SWAL Player of the Year, which is really saying something considering that the SWAL routinely has teams ranked towards the top of Division IV and Division V in Wisconsin. Then we had Michael Keegan out of Dyersville-Beckman. He led the Trailblazers in a number of different statistics. They finished with 15 wins, and he's only a junior, so it'll be a very promising future for him as well. Just very talented, whether it was defensive, offensive, scoring. It didn't seem to matter. Whatever the Beckman needed this kid to do, he was out there to do it. And then lastly, across the river in Illinois, we have Peyton Heller. Really kind of hard to pick one East Dubuque kid, but the reason why Heller gets the nod is he was named first team All-State in Illinois Class 1A. He led the Warriors in scoring and rebounds, and he was just part of a trio of seniors that helped East Dubuque really advance as far as they've ever gotten in the state tournament. It's kind of hard to imagine that happening without Heller. So a very talented first team, a very talented Player of the Year, and a very worthy coach this year for our all-area team.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It seemed like just yesterday the season was getting started, and now we're talking about all-area.
Yeah.
So that should pretty much do it for this week's edition of Telegraph Herald More Than the Score. I'm sports editor Jim Leitner, and this is Brenden West. We'll see you next week.